What the fuck? I mean, what the hell? What the flip? Hey everyone!
Hey everyone!
Welcome back. Hope you're doing okay. Hope you've enjoyed our last few videos. Hope you're going to enjoy this one. Hope you'll enjoy the next few.
You will.
That's all this video is going to be, I'm afraid.
That's great.
Oh, it's getting noisy out here again. I think we should move site.
I think so.
It's a great little place in the woods over by the pond ahead.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Should we up sticks and move?
That'll be the set next
Maybe
week.
we will, folks. Maybe we will. Anyway.
Okay, Jack has a story this week. Do you want to give us a little...
I do indeed. Today. Mm-hmm. This week is week 13.
Week 13.
Oh my god. What an arduous log.
Unlucky for some.
I was going to say that. I was going to say unlucky for some, but you beat me to it.
I don't know what else to say other than 13. It's a bit of a nondescript number. Maybe that's why they came up with unlucky for some.
1-3. Should we jump into this one?
Yeah, give us a title then.
I think you're going to react to this title.
Yeah. Okay.
The title for this week's story is We Live Here.
I like it.
Ominous.
I like
Threat.
it. I like it.
Okay.
I like a threat.
Should we go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic.
It was the perfect house. 22 Arbor Terrace. A 3-bedroom, 3-up, 3-down detached townhouse. A full-size basement, 2 bathrooms, a nice kitchen with a fully functional island, and a yard, the perfect size, fully fenced with an old oak tree, ideal for building a treehouse. And just like every perfect house, it needed the perfect family to live in it. There was Dad and Mum, Adam, a 37-year-old engineer that had made his living in the municipal sector designing subway stations for rapidly expanding cities across the states, and Olivia, a 35-year-old maths teacher that had found the ideal job at a local elementary school. It was a perfect fit, not too close from home, yet far enough to give Olivia her own kind of space. There was their youngest daughter, Amelia, a 9-year-old tennis protege, top of her class at every opportunity, who smiled every time she stepped off the school bus and skipped the short distance back home. And unlike her mum and dad, or her brother, Amelia had the deepest, warmest red hair that you've ever seen. It was like autumn itself. And then there was Oscar, their quiet son. He was 11 years old, reserved and didn't have much to say. He would keep his head down at school and didn't like putting his hand up to answer whether 99 divided by 16 was 6.187, and he never liked standing up for the national anthem at the beginning of class, either. In fact, Adam and Olivia were a little bit worried about him, to say the least, and they were keeping close tabs on his progress, as they said. It was probably just a phase after all. Some children often look inward while they're waiting for something to say, and perhaps he hadn't quite figured out exactly how to say it, or so they told themselves. The truth of the matter was, though, Adam and Olivia were concerned about Oscar, although they'd never admit it over their bi-monthly cheese and wine party that they'd hold for their friends. In fact, they'd rarely even speak about it to each other. But somehow, deep down, they knew. Because maybe twice a month, Oscar would creep into their bedroom in the dead of night. He wouldn't say a word, but he'd stand over them and he'd whisper, "They're here again. They're here. Mum? Mum, they're scratching at the walls." The first time he did it, Adam nearly broke his neck jumping out of bed. He was a heavy sleeper, but when he was startled, there was no stopping him. Olivia didn't really like to talk about it, but that night, Oscar screamed the house down at the sight of his own father thrashing towards him. Since then, though, Adam had learned the hard way that his son may be a sleepwalker. Since then, they'd go to great lengths to make sure Oscar wouldn't wander from his bedroom in the middle of the night. They tried tucking his sheets in tight to the corners of the bed. They tried leaving a nightlight on for him so his unconscious brain knew not to stray too far from the light. Hell, they'd even tried cracking his bedroom window at night so the light breeze would keep him from stirring too heavily. On this night, though, things were a little different for Oscar, because despite how worried his parents were about his night terrors, this time he answered back. You see, this time he had a plan. Oscar had never truly been afraid of the voices that stirred him from his slumber. In fact, it had piqued a curious part of his brain that had been the only thing that he could focus on since he'd first heard them whispering. On this night, when Oscar heard the scratching at the walls, instead, he slipped himself out of bed and crawled on his hands and knees towards the vent so that he wouldn't wake his parents. He shimmied across the carpet, careful not to make too much noise, and he peeked his head. against the wall. "Hello?" he said. Is there anybody there?" There was silence for a moment, and then a weighty breath, and in a cracked voice, a woman spoke. "My sweetheart," she said. "I knew you'd answer. That's a good boy." Oscar felt a chill across his spine, and all his hair stood on end. He could smell something foul coming from the vent, like sulphur and old dirt. He held his nose and swallowed. "Who are you?" he said. Why do you keep calling me at night?" "Sweetheart, please," the voice replied. "You have to come downstairs to the basement. You have to open the door." Oscar felt another shiver run down his spine. That was bad news in itself. He couldn't open the basement. That was where his dad kept his workshop. It was full of Dad's things. And Adam had told Oscar and Amelia that they could never go down there under any circumstances, because it was also where he kept his plans for work, and he was very particular about keeping it as tidy of a space as possible. "I can't do that," said Oscar. "That's where my dad keeps his things for work. He won't ever let us down there." "No, it's not," sharply snapped the woman's voice. "No, it's not. Please, sweetheart, you have to let us out." Oscar swallowed. He laid there on the carpet, unsure what to do. He was torn. He didn't want to make his dad angry by going into his workshop, but also he wanted the voices to stop. Maybe, just maybe, if he opened the door, whatever was down there would just slip out and leave him be. Oddly, though, there was something to the woman's voice as well. It was familiar, but only familiar in the sense that your skin is familiar. Somehow it felt like it was a part of him already, but he wasn't entirely sure how or why. Her voice somehow resonated deep down within him. And even stranger, Oscar felt like he trusted her. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, I'll come and open the door." The woman let out a weighty sigh, as if she'd been holding her breath the entire time. "Oh, sweetheart, my Seth," she said. "That's a good boy." He crouched up from the carpet, careful to tiptoe his way across the room, making sure the floorboards never fully creaked. Oscar gently pulled open his bedroom door and poked his head out into the gloom of the landing. He could barely see, but he could make out that his parents' door was firmly in its frame. That was a good sign. Usually they kept it ajar just in case Oscar was sleepwalking again. Slowly, gradually, 10 seconds at a time, he crept his way across the hallway past his sister's room until he came to the staircase. He never did like venturing downstairs at night. The moon had a habit of shining through the front door, casting the ground floor of the house in a pale blue light that made Oscar feel quite uneasy. This time, though, he kept on. He puffed out his chest, and one toe at a time, he gently made his way down the steps. When he came to the basement door, Oscar realised that he'd never truly looked at it before. It seemed to be made from wood, but somehow it seemed stronger than that, denser almost. Too strong of a door to ever be part of a home, and on the side, firmly welded into the frame, were a series of oddly familiar locks. 3 thick bolts, a chain, and a deadlock. It was strange that he'd never noticed it before, but before he knew it, Oscar's hands had slipped up the side of the door and knocked each lock aside like it was the most natural thing that he'd ever done. He placed his palm on the handle and twisted, and Oscar stood at the top of the stairway, staring into darkness. And then he heard it. A woman coughing, spluttering as if the surge of air had knocked the wind straight out of her lungs. But between the choked back coughs and wheezes, she was saying something. "Seth," she spluttered. "Sweetheart, I knew you'd come. Quick, you have to hurry. You have to let me out." Oscar felt uneasy, that same familiar chill running down the length of his spine. His name wasn't Seth, but something was driving him. There was something odd about that woman's voice, making him cast aside all semblance of doubt and forcing him to step down the wooden stairway. And before he knew it, he was at the bottom, clambering his hands across the wall to find the light switch, and click. And there she was, the woman that had called to him ever since he could remember, clawing inside the walls, whispering into the air vent of his bedroom. She was real. She wasn't a night terror at all, and yet she was chained to the wall. She was filthy, gaunt, emaciated, barely even skin and bones, but For some strange reason, Oscar couldn't help but inch closer and closer toward her. Strangely, her arms were pocked with hundreds of tiny red dots, tight, pierced marks into her skin, some faded in shades of blue and others fleshy and pink and freshly healed. He crouched down, his knees cracking. The woman stared at him, transfixed, locking her eyes onto his. But at the corners of her mouth, a smile began to spread. And as Oscar inched closer and closer, a strange scent filled the air. It was blueberry waffles. Oscar's gaze panned upward, and on the wall, he noticed an oddly familiar sketch carved into the dust of the concrete. It was a space station, and beside it, a huge, bright, burning sun. A cough pierced the silence like dust in a rusty pipe. Oscar span around, and on the opposite wall were two others chained to the wall in the same fashion. A man and a woman, both with the deepest, reddest hair that you've ever seen, just like his sisters. They were barely lucid, the man's head rolling around like a rag doll, both of them with the same pierced punctures in their skin of their arms. But just as Oscar turned back to the woman, he heard the basement door click open. And then, footstep after perfectly placed footstep, his parents stepped into the dim light. Oscar felt a cool, cold hand on his shoulder, and before he knew it, he was standing up. Adam, his father, brushed past him without saying a word and crouched down beside the woman. Oscar couldn't help but look at her chained to the wall, a familiar face staring down back at his. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Seth, sweetheart," she muttered, but Adam cut her off. He shook his head, tutting. "His name isn't Seth," he said. "It's Oscar." His father turned around, smiling up at him. The kind of smile that isn't a smile at all. "Isn't that right, son?"
What the fuck? I mean, what the hell? What the flip? Okay, so that was
What the flip?
linked to nanny, right? Okay, I'm glad I know that. That's linked to the nanny. Okay. If you haven't seen the nanny, this will still make sense. But go and watch that one straight after.
That was my intention.
This is sort of, well, I want to get into that. I don't know if I call it a sequel. I call it something that's set in the same universe, but I don't know what the hell. Like,
Questions answered.
yeah, no, like,
Well, you texted me the other day talking about how we should do a universe crossover, and I've been sat on that story for ages, so that's why I didn't reply.
so that was,
So I changed the subject.
so that was a cross. That wasn't a crossover. Was that a crossover with what?
I want to know because they were very
kind of-
small.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate that the nanny probably isn't fresh in your mind, but for those of you that have the nanny fresh in your mind, the
kind
word
of, yeah.
kind of smile isn't a smile at all.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. I'm only hearing the nanny though. Is there something else that's mixed with that? Another story.
No.
Oh right. When you said crossover.
Oh, sorry.
I was
No.
like,
Sorry.
Right. Just
In the same. Yeah.
set in the same world. Before or after?
After.
After.
Yeah.
So they're all like they're all like the nanny. So Olivia is Olivia the nanny? Is Olivia the nanny?
What do you think? The nanny did have a name,
Yeah, she did.
which I forget.
Or maybe she just delivered him to them.
There we go.
Right. Okay. And like memory wiped him or something. Or wiped his memory.
What?
Because he had a memory of his real mum, didn't he?
Yeah, oh,
He
yeah.
knew his real mum.
She's in the basement.
Yeah. And his dad, presumably.
Was a robot.
But who? Yes. And was it brother or sister?
Sister.
Sister.
Yeah.
Right.
Amelia.
So they're all there. Poor kid. He can't get a break. He gets like so close to like figuring it out all that, and then just.
Poor Seth, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I've probably forced myself into such a despairing resolution that Seth probably needs a happy ending, but this is a horror show. Unfortunately,
You're going to bring him back in like a month and put him through hell again.
Hey,
yeah.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Seth's got a lot going.
Seth bit into the blueberry waffle.
Poor kid.
But
I did actually feel really like kind of upset.
he's had a hot. I mean, I don't mind. Like it's always like horrific and tragic what we do to these characters.
Yeah.
But I've got some solace that they only had to go through it once.
Exactly.
So just,
Brought him back.
digging them up and like, yeah. But that was when I got that and it clicked. It was the waffles to me. The name, I heard the name Seth, and I was just like, you've definitely used that before.
Yeah.
For a second, I was like, did you tell me you want to call your kid that one day or something? Like, where have I heard that from? Because I know you like that name, or you've mentioned it before. And then when the waffles kicked, and then I was like, oh, okay.
And then did you see she'd traced the picture that he paints all the way through the nanny?
Yeah.
She traced
that was
it.
another big bit where I was like, yeah.
I thought that was a little bit too far. I thought that was a dust too far. But, you know,
I don't think
it's a horror show.
Well, I thought that like the house that or the apartment, it was the apartment
yeah.
that you originally described. It sounded quite bare. It sounded like they weren't that well off.
Yeah.
And it probably was just like a waffle maker or a TV and like just colouring or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that there was, that those were the things that would appear there as well. And yeah. So why did these, whatever they are, why do they need to keep them in the basement?
This is the illusion. This is kind of like, so.
And also,
I don't know whether I'm going to.
I've got another question.
Okay.
Why, I liked how it's set up as them being concerned parents, because I didn't see that coming until the very, very end.
Yeah.
But why were they concerned if they knew? They must have, as soon as he heard like voices or whatever, would they not have been like, let's seal that up, or let's block that basement up, or they're in on it, right?
Well, they're not real.
Oh, okay.
So this, I kind of don't want to give away spoilers for the third of the Nanny trilogy.
Yeah.
But the kind of idea is that all parents have been replaced by something else.
Okay.
What that something else is why I try to leave slight illusions,
Yeah.
They're kept in the basement because they're a fuel source
Right.
for the parents, which is, the
Yeah.
pot marks in the arms.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
That's why they're kept,
Oh, I like that. I didn't like it. I hate. Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd put that in there.
Especially
She hates
blue, freshly.
No.
Oh, I would. Yeah, when you said it was like red ones, I was like, oh, that could be anything. But then it's like blue and like it seems so real. Like, yeah. No, I loved it, and I really liked how it felt like kind of the Others-esque at the start. I thought it would be the house itself was the creepy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking, obviously, going through my head, I'm thinking, okay, ghosts, maybe it's ghosts in the walls. Maybe he's the ghost. Maybe it's a family that used to live there, like that.
That was
and
my intention.
Well, you were leading that very well, and so they went at that, and that set up the ending especially well. Yeah, and there's also some really, really good literary flourishes. I know I always compliment Jack for these.
Yeah,
but
forget about the flourishes, mate.
No, well, like, try not to make the step creak all the way. That's not just describing it. It's like putting a real, like, we all remember that as kids, like trying to not make stairs creak. You don't just say, but it not all the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really like that, because that's, if you just said, I tried to not make the stair creak. Okay, all right, that's fine, but not all the way. You can hear it. I can hear it. So you've injected sound into that.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
And the door being like too dense for a house. In a really good way, because my mind just sort of, I didn't have to do any description there. My mind started painting that door and picturing what a door that's too dense to be in a house would be like. So that really set up nicely. And I didn't think you embellished too much on the house, and it was like, I liked how you kept it almost like a conversation. It was a sort of a conversation between the two of them. Yeah. There wasn't any sort of like, and then the Bannister did this, or you didn't do it too much.
Well, I kind of wanted to write it as like a haunted house, like opening as a haunted house story, but robots.
But robots.
Evil robot parents.
That should be the title. But robots. You try and write a scary story, but robots.
And that was kind of like the path that I wanted to lead you down. Obviously, I had in mind that I wanted to tie in Seth's story. once more, and it was kind of a practice in with restraint on how I could make him go through that pain again. And now he's got a little bit older. Pain's awful because he kind of lives in some kind of dystopian robot parent.
I hope he. Oh, and I'm not even going to say it actually, but I know what I hope for him, where it's set next.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying what I hope happens, but I know. Yeah.
Well, it was also like, you know, kind of my past few stories have been almost like magical realism kind of stuff, or, you know, old school kind of traditional horror. I just, you know, I think you do sci-fi so well that I kind of wanted to like bring down, because I was really proud of the Nanny, thought it was great. I kind of wanted to like bring down those concepts and see some kind of post-apocalyptic world that you don't really know is post-apocalyptic. Because what if the robots take over all the children?
Yeah.
You know, we're all raised by robots.
It feels like the part in the in the sci-fi movie when they say, General, we've already had 500 cases of this happening across, and then he goes into the sci-fi movie. But this is ground zero. It's before anyone even knows it's happening. You know.
This was kind of in. So Seth was 7 when the Nanny started. I think 7, 6, 7, and he was 11 now. So he's kind of like been raised by robots.
Speak in numbers type of score.
Robots do speak in numbers, don't they? Scores on the door.
I'm giving it a 7.9.
That's really kind of you.
Well, you know how there's always
always
an element of something that you do that like will take it from that to like a little bit. And for me, this was that you've introduced the whole new thing to our channel, which is referencing older stories and starting a universe. And like we're gonna start a playlist called like or whatever you want to call that world, and everything will be set up in that playlist.
Wow.
And, like, so that you've earned a few extra points for that.
Just for logistics. I try. Hey, I'm here for the logistics, guys. Don't worry about it. He does the horror, I'll do the logistics. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, not for the actual story, just for the algorithm.
Wow, that's thematic though.
For the algorithm. What? Did I miss something?
Robots have algorithms.
I guess.
I was gonna like pull like a. Because you said that I'd get extra points if I somehow like.
Oh no, I can't.
Made the story.
You've
already given the point. Yeah, you've already given the points.
7.9. Great.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
I hope you did.
I also realised we didn't explain what the channel is at the start. You know, the first few weeks we always used to explain, but I'll just say it now. This is How I Know, where Jack and I share original scary stories. You can send your own in when we read them out on a live stream. To this email right here. Hoping to do a live stream soon. We're also going to be hopefully doing double uploads soon. But last time I promised something in the video, which was a special guest, that didn't happen. So maybe pretend you didn't hear that. But maybe we're going to do 2 uploads a week. So this is your first time. Make sure you subscribe, and like, and comment. We read every single one.
We do.
And we heart most of them.
We do.
Until then,
this evening you've been watching us on How I Know. That was We Live Here.
Yeah.
He's been Danny Burke.
Jack Finch.
Thank you for stopping by our fire. Take care.
Bye-bye, fire.
We usually blow the fire out. We didn't say that, did we?
Oh yeah, we're blowing the fire out now. Ready?
Okay, goodbye.